and gentlemen, welcome to the Color Commentary Podcast, episode Lucky 13. We are going to preview Week 11, go through coulda, woulda, shouldas, our waiver wire picks, and finally, we're going to preview 5 of the best matchups for our fantasy teams and for the NFL in general. J-Mar, tell me how your week went last week.
I'm on a mean streak right now, and I'm very happy to say that I'm winning, and I'm 6-4, and I'm on a 4-game winning streak, riding this to where I need to ride it to.
J-Mar, I'm proud of your team and your resolve. You won 4 games in a row. My team has been up and down. I am 6-4, 6-4, and 4-6. And so we'll talk about my decisions and how I can improve up next on the Color Commentary Podcast. Tell me, what luck? What star did you wish on? It was a brutal week across the board. I mean, like players and teams not showing up, performing, injuries. This season, you showed me the meme of a guy getting kicked in the balls multiple times. And it's like 12 different players that are now hurt. And then, of course, out of nowhere, Jerry Jeudy is now a reliable, maybe not reliable, but a valuable fantasy asset.
It's so funny, man. Like I texted my opponent that I'm playing this week. He's a good friend of mine, and he has Travis Hunter and Tyler Kraft on his team, and he's just like, man, this season sucks. He's just like not even into the game anymore. I'm like, come on, man. It's still exciting. We'll still figure it out. Injuries suck, and I feel like there's been a lot of injuries this year, which is not good. But yeah, I mean, maybe it's just this season and it's bad luck, but it is sad to see so many injuries for sure. Hopefully that's something that can get fixed in this next off season, if it has to do with the turf or whatever sort of reasons that are sort of bubbling to the surface here, because watching human beings getting hurt playing this game is not fun. I mean, I know it's part of the sport, it's part of the game, but it feels like it's too frequent, right?
It's feeling like it's too frequent. Speaking of luck, this is Lucky episode 13, the Taylor Swift episode. Travis Kelce did not play last week. Now the Chiefs did. And I'm with you, man. Like the injuries, even on the Monday night game, you know, we're talking about the center going out, left tackles leaving the game on carts. And every time I hear it, see it, I'm like, this game is so brutal. And it's still so entertaining, and it's next man up. But it does feel like there needs to be something done. And I don't know if it's the turf or if it's the pads or if it's the velocity, but it just feels like the starting and the stopping of football kind of goes with it, right? Like when you have a rugby game and with no pads, you don't see the kinds of injuries there that you see in American football.
Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully they do something about it, because yeah, it's a little bit much. It's sad to see so many injuries happening. But hey, you know, fantasy football lives on. There's a lot of money at stake.
On and on. This year is tough. I had a much easier time last year because I had the fortune of drafting Ja'Marr Chase in one league. And, you know, Joe Burrow was with him the whole time. Joe Flacco with Ja'Marr Chase is still a great combo. And then in another league, the players got hot late. It was the Detroit players started to play better. And so like it's about grinding it out. And you could still be in it, even if you have 6 losses at this point. You just have to win out and get into the 6th place realm. So my teams aren't mathematically eliminated yet. I am 4-6 in one league, 6-4 in 2 others. And when I was 6-2, 6-3, you want to keep winning. That 7-3 sounds better, but 6-4 is okay. Whereas like you climbed up to 6-4, and it must feel like you dodged a bullet.
100%, man. I was 2-0, felt good, and then 2-4. You know, even when I was 2-4, to be honest with you, Ramiro, I felt like I was going to be coming back and that I was capable of this type of comeback. I was losing some pretty close games. I was putting in some players that I was taking risks, and some players didn't pan out, and I saw some bench players just really just going off. And so it was kind of like a mixture of just bad luck and a mixture of me trying to outsmart the system, but I didn't panic. So I'm on a 4-game winning streak after being on a 4-game losing streak. So hopefully the tie doesn't turn again and I have a 4-game losing streak to close out the season. That would suck. But I feel pretty confident. I've got a good team. I think the other owners in my league recognize that, kind of hovering in like a 4th place position right now as far as like the overall points is concerned. I've scored the 2nd most points 2 weeks in a row for the week. So I mean, look, I mean, I know my opponents, I like me, they're scholars of the fantasy football sport, if you will. So yeah, when you
I would
see
love
people,
a class, a professor
could you
of
imagine
fantasy football, man. Let's
a
just go through it.
university?
Everyone, yeah, a university level, like you break it down and it's like 2 groups of 12 and you just explain it through math, through probability. It would actually be a fun course. I think like a University of Chicago could do it and call it a big problems course. You heard it here first.
That's the American dream. Are you kidding me? Like, can you imagine somebody being like, "Yeah, man, I got to go to my fantasy football class." Like, are you kidding me?
I laughed at first, but I actually see so many things to pull from it, and getting people excited and talking about the chances and the choices people take and comparing mathematical models to human behavior. There's something there.
Could you imagine explaining that to, you're a college kid explaining that to your parents? You're like, yeah, well, I decided to take, do a major in fantasy football. I'm learning about economics and budgeting and, business acumen.
The philosopher Plato always said, let children learn through play. And I'm paraphrasing, but I think a course like that would kind of tease out a lot of lessons and would get a lot of excitement. I know some universities have courses on Taylor Swift or other, music talent. And I think this game is so widely adopted. I went to Vegas this last weekend. I'm going in and out of elevators and people are talking about their fantasy teams. Oh man.
Dude, did you promote our
yeah, I had cards and I was like, hey man, no, that was I should just wear a big t-shirt and go door to door in Vegas.
That would be so much fun. Oh my gosh.
I think we should. So a goal of ours, J-Mar, should be a live recording. We should invite our friends and family, and especially people on our fantasy teams, and just have them come out. And I think it might be a nice way to celebrate this sport that we all watch and nerd out for, and have our hopes and dreams pinned to these young players, these young men and their fortunes. It's wild to go through it emotionally just as a fan with some consequence. I can't imagine what it's like to be a player. Every week, am I going to get really hurt or am I going to make a career move and next year get millions of dollars?
Yeah. A lot of pressure, but yeah, man, my fellow fantasy league owners in my league, they're great, man. And
that's awesome.
They watch this, not all of them, but enough of them, I think, just to wisely watch it to see if they can get in
your
my
moves.
brain and see what my moves are. Yeah. So, but
I see it happen.
I'm aware of all that, so I don't reveal too much. I reveal as much as I possibly can, which I got to tell you, I know that we recorded the episode last week and we put in our picks for the games. Come Sunday morning, I ended up like changing like about 75% of those picks and going with the opposite pick, just because you just Sunday morning happens, right? Saturday night, Sunday morning, you just like you start second guessing your choices, and then you look, and then you're like, no, I don't think Pittsburgh's gonna beat the Chargers at home. Let me pick the Chargers. So I made that switch up, and I also made the switch up that the Rams were gonna beat the San Francisco 49ers, which they stomped them pretty hard.
It was a stomping. It was a stomping, Jimmer. I think we could talk about Sunday morning because I am up at night Saturday and I'm like, I'm going to wake up at 9 and LA time. And I have to look at my lineup. And I know looking at it, I'm going to make the wrong choice somewhere. Like, I don't know where it is, but some pick that I make is going to totally impact me. And I'm going to wish I can't make it. But since I don't have a crystal ball, I don't know. So that's actually a really good transition to how my teams did. And so
Yeah, how'd they do, man?
Ramiro's regular folks scored the least amount of points out of any week I've ever had. Only 87.32, with Jalen Hurts getting 12 points, Dobbins getting 8.9, Swift getting 12. Olave was on fire and got a touchdown and 100 yards. It was one of his best games. Collins did great. No touchdowns, but 136 yards and a 2-point conversion. Laporta did okay. AJ Brown let me down. So his 2 or 20 points, that's what he does.
I mean, I think everyone in that Green Bay Philly game was pretty disappointing. I mean, Saquon had some sick moves for sure. And I mean, look, what was the final score on that game? Was it 10-7?
10-7. Basically a World Series baseball score.
Maybe I think the Dodgers and the Blue Jays scored more than that, actually.
It was 11-7, I think.
Oh my gosh. And just a weird kind of coincidence. That's the same score that the Raiders and the Broncos, those same points they put up on the Thursday night game. Weird.
That's right. No, that's right. It was both 7-10, 7-10. So
bookended by mediocrity.
Well, I have this counterpoint. I love defensive football. As a Chicago Bears fan, seeing the defenses slug it out, keeping the score low, like I have a love for great defense. The weather played a part of it, of course, but sitting there as a fantasy player, it kills you to see a low score. You want teams to throw the ball. You want them to go for the touchdown. And I was actually, as a Bears fan, wishing Green Bay would score on the Eagles to force Jalen Hurts to throw. Instead, they kept running the ball at the end with Saquon Barkley, and my fantasy game was toast. There was another league here, my Yahoo league. You can see this red line is dog wearing sunglasses. Sunday night, I have 74.4 points, and then one Jalen Hurts touchdown later, and I almost win the game. I needed one more offensive throw to either Dallas Goedert or Devonta Smith to win the game. And it just didn't happen because the Packers couldn't kick a field goal to set it into overtime. I'd never rooted for the Packers ever before, but it was just killing me because Drake London showed up. Devonta Smith, I just talked about. Aaron Jones actually did great. And then Jalen Hurts scores 12 points. I still have Caleb Williams on this team, didn't start him, and he scored 26 points. So that's the main topic for you and I, is what made you start Caleb instead of Jalen Hurts this week? Because I showed my cards. I said, I'm going to start Caleb week 10, and then I'm going to put him to sleep, and it's going to go back to my starting quarterback. What gave you the confidence to start him?
Yeah. Before I answer that question, I just want to to your point, it's so brutal when it gets down to decimal points and you're watching the Monday night football game and it's just you're like, I'm one completion away from winning and it doesn't happen. Oh, that's the most brutal way. One of the most brutal ways to lose a fantasy football game for sure.
I was screaming when he threw that long touchdown to Devonta Smith, because that was the exact kind of move that would win me the game. And it was I just needed a little bit more. And it's tough. He did that in one quarter. Jalen Hurts normally does that 3 out of 4 quarters. He could have had a monster game. But anyway, weather is a big factor. And I think we saw it in that game. It was slippery. They couldn't get a hold of anything.
Oh, yeah.
So it just ruins football a bit. And it actually makes you think okay, grass is neat. No dome is neat, but this is not the same product out in the field.
Yeah, and you could blame the weather at the Raider Denver game too. It was super windy, and the passing game was trash on both sides of the ball. It's bad. And actually, I looked at the weather report for this week, and there's a pretty gnarly weather happening in the southeastern part of the U.S. So it'll be interesting how that, and also the East Coast. So it's going to be interesting how that affects games this week as well too.
100%. So I was watching the weather report, and it was another fantasy analyst that had me worried about the Giants-Bears game because Chicago was going through a lot of wind, gusts of 20 miles per hour, snow. And so I faded Caleb Williams in the passing attack. I did not start Rome Odunze. I actually dropped Caleb Williams in another league because I had too many players because AJ Brown was no longer IR eligible. And then it was both the wrong move. And so, I think like it's tricky fading the weather. They have to throw it to somebody. I feel like, luck was with them, but that game was almost lost, and Jackson Dart going down with a concussion really changed it at the end for the Bears. Like I saw the win when Russell Wilson was starting, and it's like they're going to win now.
At the end of the day, I just felt as if Caleb had a better shot scoring points against NYG. And at first it looked like a terrible choice because there were not a whole lot of points being scored by the Bears until that fourth quarter. And then he erupted in that fourth quarter and just did his thing. And for me, was very, very much a factor once again in winning my week this week. So thank you once again, Caleb Williams. Thank you. I just had a feeling, that's what, fantasy football is sort of just, you go with your gut and you listen to the experts and you read all the things and the articles. I felt as if Jalen Hurts was going to have a tough time against Green Bay's defense, and he did. They did.
Oh, yeah.
But they had enough juice to get the win, which is good for them. But yeah, I'm glad that I went with Caleb because that was one of many multiple big winner picks that I was able to put in my starting lineup. And I scored 175 points.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Against my opponent who scored 142. So I needed all those points, still 30-point difference, but still, my opponent did very well. In fact, my opponent would have only lost to two, including myself, to one other person. So it's just bad luck for him, man. Sucks for him actually, because two. He would have lost to three total owners, but is what it is. It's just the luck of the draw, I guess.
It is luck of the draw. A lot of times, if you have a high score total, it evens out. You face teams that are inevitably going to score lower points, but you never know towards the end of the season how things go. I mean, I forget the point offering of a full point per reception. Like hearing 175 points is ridiculous to me. Like I see teams in a half point PPR where they're scoring 140, 160. But yeah, like it's like that's still a lot. And the defenses actually showed up a lot this week. A lot of defensive scoring touchdowns. If you had like the Seattle Seahawks, for instance, they were scoring 24 plus points.
Yeah,
on it.
My opponent had the Seahawks, and I needed him to cool down because I was starting to get worried. But luckily, I had Jahmyr Gibbs go off, and he scored me 40.3 points. I mean, the guy had 2 rushing touchdowns. He had a receiving touchdown. He had 142 yards on the ground. He had 3 receptions. I mean, the guy was just going off, man. He was an offensive juggernaut this past week. So this is why he is so highly regarded and why he goes high in the draft, and why
that's why you kept him.
Gibbs owners are just like, yes, that's the guy. He produces for me. So thank you, Jahmyr Gibbs.
I think this year it's about the stalwart running backs. Last year it was about the crazy good wideouts, Ja'Marr Chase being one of them, Justin Jefferson being another, producing even without a top quarterback. I think that I was very confident in Justin Jefferson, even though he was going to have a rookie. I trusted that team. If they let go of Sam Darnold, that JJ McCarthy must be something special. And we've seen him do it in glimpses, in little glimmers, but he's still basically a rookie. And so, when I saw Justin Jefferson fall to me in like the 6th or 7th or 12th round, it was so tempting for me to take him because of what happened last year. And so what I'm seeing instead is like a Jonathan Taylor destroying teams and not getting hurt. Same thing with Christian McCaffrey. We're in week 11 and he's still good. Jahmyr Gibbs. And if you have one of those 3 players, you are most likely doing very well in fantasy. And so I am missing that on my teams. Like I decided to pick up running backs later, and one of them, Breece Hall, is doing great. I didn't start him because he's going up against the Browns and I thought he'd have trouble. But basically, it's Breece Hall or nobody. Who else is going to score points in that team? And so it's a different year. Like it felt like it's tough to decide who to draft. And I picked up Josh Allen in the 4th round, and he's doing well, but he's not booming enough. He's not carrying my team, right? So scoring 20 fantasy points is what I need him to do. But what I want him to do is boom like a Jahmyr Gibbs. And it's just not happening yet.
Yeah, I mean, running backs went off this week. I mean, Jonathan Taylor scored 59 whopping points. Holy moly. I mean, that guy's having a banner year. Devin Achane scored 44 points. That guy went off against the Buffalo Bills that nobody expected Miami to bounce back. Might have saved Mike
McDaniel's job.
Mike McDaniel's job, at least least probably till the end of the season. Maybe they'll get rid of him. But I mean, for now, it doesn't make sense to get rid of him. It seems like the players are still fighting for him and still putting up 30 points against the Bills and beating the Bills. So Treveyon Henderson, a fantastic game against the Tampa Bay Bucks. I mean, really just stomped on them. 2 rushing touchdowns, 147 rushing yards. He scored like 30 points against them. And, just a very, very, the guys who have those star running backs, they seem to be feasting and winning, right? I'm just, reviewing all of the guys who have the names I just mentioned, Achane, Henderson, Gibbs, and Taylor, Jonathan Taylor. I mean, all those teams won. All those teams I just mentioned, all those teams won this week. So
that's exactly right. It's the same thing for me. So like, as I look at teams here, the Jonathan Taylor team scored 159 points. Let's look at the 129 point team. Who do they have? That's great. Let's see. Well, Trey McBride boomed in the Seahawks. So that's a little different. Drake London. So they don't have the big running back. Don Reto had Nico Collins. Okay. The defense. Yeah. A lot of good tight end defensive combos have gotten people over the 100 mark. But like, my opponent, he had Jahmyr Gibbs, scoring almost 40 points. So like that, a lot of the teams that were over 120 points had that big running back contribution, and the others had a combo of like a wideout that boom plus defense. So it was a big game for the running backs, defenses, and tight ends this week. And the wideouts, some of them boom, but just haven't gotten there like the running backs have. So, I think there's these cycles and trends in fantasy, and I think for me, I was relying on wideouts to kind of carry my team, and so far they've been more consistent, but they haven't reached the heights of like 142 points. And so that's why I'm 4-6 in one league and 6-4 in two leagues, because I have a lot more consistency. But I am jealous of the teams that have these awesome running backs, because I haven't seen boom weeks like that quite yet.
Well, we might be seeing a trend. I'm thinking to myself, that we'll see if the teams that end up in the playoffs are the same teams we just kind of rattled off with very strong running games.
We know the danger that comes with that job, right? It's the most dangerous job, in my opinion, in the NFL. A lot of injuries, a lot of things happen when they get worn down. Can they keep it up another 5 weeks? We'll see. But with the weather going bad, usually the running backs are a little bit more stable. And that's why this game is so fascinating. Like, you really don't know what's going to happen. The Dolphins destroying the Bills was not in my bingo card. And the offenses of the Philadelphia Eagles and Green Bay Packers only scoring a combined 17 points. No one guessed that, right? And so that's why they're fun to watch. And I'm excited for my Bears. With a loss by the Green Bay Packers, are now in first place. And I don't know how long I'll be saying that. But, J-Mar, I applaud you in your faith with Caleb Williams. You had more faith than me, I think, as a longtime Bears fan. I just couldn't see it. I just was like, all right.
I mean, look, and he's that kind of quarterback where, look, this is his second year, right? Or third year?
Second year.
This is his second year. So, okay, this is the second year. He's only going to get better, right? That's kind of the trajectory that we're hoping for. At least certainly Bears fans are hoping for that. But fantasy owners of this, Caleb Williams, are hoping for the same thing, that he's on a trajectory where he's learning defenses. He's reading them better. He is a dual threat. He's, so great out of the pocket and running out in the open field. And he's got a great arm too. So that's why they drafted him numero uno. and hopefully he starts to produce in that way. Everybody kind of has that hard time getting out of the nest, right? And hopefully
Sure.
that first year was just kind of like him just going through the motions. But he's got an interesting test this week against Minnesota, which is like a revenge game for the Bears, and
Yes.
they're not favored in that game. It's a home game for Minnesota. Minnesota's got JJ McCarthy back, and we'll see what happens. But I feel as if even though the odds and everything are stacked against Caleb in that game, this is kind of like a test, a good test for him, because he can really step up to the plate and on the big stage and say, look, I know these guys beat us first Monday night game and it was embarrassing because they came back after we were leading. He can really show a lot of maturity this week by winning that game. And I think it's ironic that you're wearing purple and it looks like you should have a skull written on it,
Yeah, I am wearing Vikings purple. I just like this color, but I am a
maybe
Bears fan.
maybe it's like a reverse psychology.
Maybe. I see this game as a tough one for the Bears. Their schedule isn't great from here on out. A lot of division games. This was the easy part of their schedule, and they barely won both games. The Bengals and the Giants gave them a lot of trouble, and now they're up against their divisional opponents. They're up against the Browns, and they're going to play the Eagles at some point. So they have a lot of tests coming up, and I will continue to ask you if you're going to start Caleb or Jalen. I will continue to bet on Jalen, even though I lost this week, and see how that goes. For the teams that I still have him on my bench, I'm glad I didn't drop him. I'm going to try to get him back off of waivers in one of the leagues because right now J.K. Dobbins looks like he finally got hurt, and I have R.J. Harvey in that league. So wheels up on him, and I can put J.K. Dobbins in IR and pick Caleb back up.
I actually just checked my stats, and I'm actually third. I'm third, bro, in my point total.
That's exciting, dude.
Yeah, I thought I was fourth, but I corrected myself in a great way. So currently, I wouldn't have the bye if the playoffs started next week, but I would have the third slot, which is exciting. That means I would play the sixth slot in my playoff seed. But I can't look too far in advance here. You got to play every week. It's a new week and new opponent, and just like the NFL, you just never know who's going to strike gold that week. I mean, just look at the Miami Dolphins versus the Buffalo Bills. So yeah, man, it's exciting. But it's interesting because now that I've got 3 tight ends on my team, that means I've only got 3 wide receivers on my team too, which is an interesting. I've got 4 wide receivers, which is usually people like to stack up wide receivers on their team, right? And it makes me a little uneasy that I've got, I guess, only 4 wideouts. But I would have stuck with Jerry Jeudy. And just because it just satiates a number in my head, I should have 5 total wide receivers on my team, but got rid of Jeudy because he's been doing awful, except for, of course, when I get rid of him, and he has a very productive Sunday in a loss against the Jets. But I mean, at this point, what do I do? What's my would have? Should I reclaim Jerry Jeudy off the bench if I can? That's even if he's available, because he might just get snatched off the waiver wire by another owner. Or do I just go with this 3 tight end rotation, which seems a little bit asinine, but one pro that I see from it, I do see one pro from it, which is by stacking, by hoarding these tight ends, then I keep good tight ends off of the waiver wire. So, my potential opponents that could potentially need a tight end, then they don't have access to Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts, or Cade Otton. And I'm starting Cade Otton every week until, all of Tampa Bay's wide receivers come back healthy, because at this point, Cade Otton has been producing. Baker Mayfield has been throwing him the ball. Cade Otton had 9 receptions for 82 yards. I mean, he didn't score a touchdown, but he scored points for me. Scored 17 points for me. And Mark Andrews had a touchdown. I mean, he only had 3 receptions, but one of them was a TD. That's my.
So he was on your bench with the touchdown.
That is correct. Yeah, but I'm glad he was on my bench because Kate Otten scored more points than he did. It's an interesting scenario here. That's the joy of the PPR league again. Once again,
PPR is a different beast. For the narrative, you getting Jerry Jeudy back. I mean, we both thought he was a good player. I mean, he showed up here. We were kind of waiting for him. I don't think you need 3 tight ends. It's a lot of tight ends. Would someone pick up a Kyle Pitts? I see what you're doing with your tight ends. Like you have Kate Otten and you have Mark Andrews, and they're valuable. So somebody starting them against you would hurt, right? If they pick them up. But it's such a variable position. I think that's a good coulda, woulda, shoulda for you. What do you do? Do you keep your third tight end or pick up a wideout that finally broke out?
Yeah, and look, I mean, I've got Drake London, Cortland Sutton, Troy Franklin, and Chris Olave. Certainly Chris Olave and Drake London being the shiny stars of that core I just mentioned there. So I'm just gonna have to play it week by week. I feel like, and we'll see what happens. But philosophically, I feel if I keep good tight ends off the waiver wire, that can only work in my favor because there's just not very many good tight ends. There's those tight ends, right, who are on the waiver wire and they stay on the waiver wire, then they have a really good week. And then the instinct and the impulse is for every fantasy owner to pick up that tight end. Oh, look, the guy from the Jets scored a touchdown, like, let's get him. And then they get him, they start him, and then nothing, a shitty week. I mean, it kind of happened with Colston Loveland the other week, which, I mean, look, he had a bang up week against the Bengals as expected. And he had a decent game against New York, right? I mean, he had 9.5 points, but I think a lot of people went out and just, not only did they get Colston Loveland, like they started him immediately just because there is such a scarcity of good tight ends out there. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm just, I know it's kind of like a move. It's just that's all it is. We're just playing around, right? It's fantasy football. I'm just seeing if this strategy works. And if it doesn't, then I'll probably end up dropping one of my 3 tight ends and getting a serviceable wide receiver, which, I mean, for the most part, there's several out there, to be honest with you. I look at the waiver wire in my league and I look at all the wide receivers that are available. There's several serviceable wideouts in there.
I think that's the most important sentence of your logic here is that there's almost always a 10-point scorer out in the waiver wire for the wideout position, especially in PPR. That's not valuable enough, right? So it might be better for you to let someone else pick up Jerry Jeudy and ride that train, and he may bust next week, and you're not on that train anymore. You're with players that are going to be more consistent. These 3 players you just mentioned are stars, right? Like they're the people that are going to save or come in a clutch. I picked up Mr. Loveland. I did not start him. I picked up Juwan Johnson instead and started him and was glad I did because of the logic of where are those targets going, right? Because Juwan Johnson did a great job at the beginning. He's got a new quarterback. This quarterback is starting to look better. Tyler Shuck. I think people are saying Shuck.
I think I heard Shug. Yeah, I think I heard. I was calling him Tyler Shuff, like rough and tough and Shuff.
I was hearing like a K at the end. Tyler Shuck. But
Tyler Shug. If I remember announcers calling him Tyler Shug, we'll get used to it. I mean, but they're on a bye week this week. We'll learn his name in 2 weeks.
It'll happen. He's starting to look okay. And more importantly, Chris Olave and Juwan Johnson's value are up. And on that note, the waiver wire. J-Mar, let's go into the waiver wire for week 11. On my list, number 1 is Juwan Johnson. I just mentioned him in our last segment. And he's someone to pick up if you see him on a waiver wire. He has the attention of the new quarterback. He looked great last week. I was proud that I picked him up and started him over Colston Loveland because it was tempting to chase points, but you often don't want to chase points after a monster game like that. And there's a lot of options in Chicago, but on the New Orleans Saints, there aren't many options, especially after they got rid of Rashid Shaheed in a trade. So I would pick up Juwan Johnson.
Great move. I would do the same thing. He's just starting to heat up.
The next up is a running back, Tyler Allgeier. If you're lucky enough to have him on your bench, he scored 2 touchdowns last week to the chagrin of Bijan Robinson owners. It's tricky. He's a handcuff who sometimes booms. If you're desperate, put him in your flex spot, but he's just a player who's nice to have. Keep him on your bench. And if you have to start him, but otherwise, I believe better things are are likely for him if Bijan Robinson ever does get hurt. Otherwise, he will continue to boom bust, but you never know.
A solid pick. He's been scoring points. So, I mean, and look, I mean, unfortunately, like we started the show talking about injuries. If, the injury demon comes and strikes, one of these guys, it's nice to have their backup ready to go.
Injury demon. Injury demon. We'll have a full song segment on our show one of these times.
Done. I love it. Great idea.
I've got another backup running back for you, Brian Robinson Jr., someone that J-Mar no longer has on his team, but someone who, because of injuries, I just think if he's out there, you want to grab him. He will do great if Christian McCaffrey ever gets hurt. The talent is there. And so this is just the time to go out and get some lottery tickets. You don't know which one of these running backs are going to get hurt. And if they do, Brian Robinson will go from running back 60 to running back 15 or 10, depending on the matchup. And finally, a wideout pick, Darius Slayton, looked really good against the Bears and had a few almost touchdowns. He was so close to scoring one, but the Bears tackled him, I think, at the 10 or 15 yard line. It looked fantastic. And so there's a chemistry developing between him and Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart most likely is not playing this week, but when he's playing again, I would have Darius Slayton and I would start him as my wideout 3 or my flex.
Who's starting in that game?
In the Giants game?
Yeah.
Russell Wilson?
Russell?
It's going to be Russell. I mean, who else do they have?
Whew. Man,
yeah, it's going to be a bad game for the Giants. I mean, it's just Russell Wilson is way past his prime and he knows it. I just see a man with no confidence. When he took over after Jackson Dart, it was pedestrian. He looked worse than any backup quarterback I'd seen all year.
Well, I mean, I guess there hasn't been an official call yet. I mean, if it's going to be Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston, but look, they've got a new coach now because Dable got canned this week. Big news. Maybe they should have waited till the end of the season, but here we are. It's the Giants. They're a mess. Yeah, and I think that more than likely we'll be seeing Russell Wilson play, but it'd be kind of fun to see Jameis Winston in there because he's such a character, right?
He's a gunslinger. I mean, he's a guy that fantasy owners want to start, but I think you're getting way more risk and some reward. I think I would be very tempted to start him over Russell Wilson. And what do you have to lose, right? If Jameis Winston isn't doing it, you could always sub him out. So I would just have fun. I would bet on fun. Start Jameis and Winston, and I think the Giants have a better shot than with Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and it's a home game. It's against Green Bay. Nobody's expecting much from the Giants at this point. So yeah, I agree. Just leave it out there. Let all the pressures on Green Bay since they lost an atrocious game at Lambeau. They've lost 2 atrocious games at Lambeau, 2 in a row. They lost to Philly, that ugly game, and then they lost to that ugly game against Carolina, back to back, man. So nobody's expecting the Giants to win. So I would just throw the kitchen sink at them and just have fun.
They should just have fun and play a game.
I got some waiver. Yeah, dude. So we're getting to that point in the season where it's like, oh, who's on the waiver wire? Okay. It's kind of some slim pickings, but once again, we mentioned, there's some guys. Look, Arizona doesn't have a running back. There's just nobody in the backfield for them because Bam Knight, who you invested in, got hurt, so he's not playing anymore. So I would pick up Amari DeMarcado. Somebody's got to run the ball in Arizona, and he's the healthy body there. So pick him up. Blake Corum is somebody that maybe you want to stash if you've got the space for him because Kyron Williams is doing great and Blake Corum is getting the ball. But once again, if something weird happens to Kyron Williams, insert Blake Corum right here. And I'm surprised that Devin Singletary is still available on the waiver wire in my league. The guy has been producing the last 3 weeks. Somebody pick him up, please. I mean, he's got no space in my team. Unfortunately, I would have picked him up if there was another slot available, but unfortunately, no. So somebody pick up Devin Singletary, make that guy feel loved. And to my point about wide receivers, I mean, literally, I have a list like Cooper Kupp, Christian Kirk, Jerry Jeudy, Mac Hollins, Malik Washington. All of these guys are available, and they all, like you said, maybe are good for a good 10 points, which is kind of, if you're in a desperate need, that's the serviceable situation that you need them in. And the one I wanted to highlight was Jalen Nailor, put up some really quality numbers against a pretty tough Baltimore defense. And he's got your Chicago Bears this week, but it seems like Jalen Naylor is making a good name for himself. I mean, the dude had 5 receptions, 124 yards, and a touchdown. We'll see if he's able to repeat that, and if he's making this connection with JJ McCarthy. He might be somebody good to get if you're willing to take the gamble, and then if you need somebody a good wideout in that space. So those are my waiver wire advices for the week.
J-Mar, let's preview some games. Week 11 is upon us. The first game we're going to preview is my Chicago Bears versus the Minnesota Vikings. We just talked about it a bit in the waiver wire segment, and I am a Justin Jefferson investor. I also have Mr. Addison on my bench. We do not have Carson Wentz in this game, but yet he has more touchdowns and passing yards than JJ McCarthy. Okay, that's why they listed him. Jordan Mason kind of went missing. Aaron Jones looks like a better start now. Rome Odunze's back to being awesome. DeAndre Swift has some of his points being vultured by Kyle Monangai, but not all. And Caleb Williams is looking like an excellent quarterback, maybe the first Bears quarterback to ever throw for 4,000 yards. He is on pace to do so. J-Mar, it looks like a toss-up according to analytics, and the fans are too. What do you think are things to watch for in this game?
Oof, man. I mean, Minnesota's got a pretty wretched defense when they show up. And this is a revenge game, right? Or potentially a revenge game because of the week 1 loss on Monday Night Football that Chicago had to the hands of JJ McCarthy and the Vikings. Very, very close game. And that was one that Chicago looked like they had in the bag there for a second in the fourth quarter. And that just went away. Minnesota just stepped up. But here we are, week 11, and Chicago's 6-3, Minnesota's 4-5. And we talked about it last week, how Baltimore, Minnesota was like a must-win situation for both of those teams. And this is certainly a must-win situation for Minnesota. Like, Chicago can afford to lose this game, maybe. Yeah, I know that sounds weird, but, if they lose this game, it doesn't necessarily, knock them out of contention of a playoff spot. And Minnesota's favored in this game, by the way, by 3 points. But I do like what I had mentioned earlier is that maybe this is a Caleb Williams maturity game where he's starting to finally turn a corner, and he's not that guy that's just going to be inconsistent one week and consistent one week and inconsistent the other week. This is really an opportunity for Caleb Williams to step up and say, hey, look, we've cobbled together some nice victories here. Let's get another one, and let's get it against a team that embarrassed us on a national spotlight in week 1. So even though Minnesota's favored in this game, I'm picking Chicago to win this game.
Hell yeah. The Bears fan, I'm only too excited to see them continue to do great. If Caleb Williams shows up and beats this team, I think he'll start to really quell the doubters. He owned that fourth quarter, much like JJ McCarthy owned that fourth quarter against the Bears. The narrative is there. It's a revenge game for them. It's in Minnesota. If they win and they win big here, people will start whispering that, Caleb Williams is just the guy. And then soon they'll be screaming that Caleb Williams is the guy. And we may be seeing a great sophomore year in him and in Drake May, that these are the franchise quarterbacks going forward for both teams. As a fan, I'm excited. As a fantasy football owner, I have mixed feelings. I want Justin Jefferson to score some points, but I would rather have the Bears win at the end of the day. So that's where I stand. The next game we have up for preview is the Seattle Seahawks versus the LA Rams. ESPN Analytics has the Rams winning by 60%, and the fans have them winning by 71%. Currently, the Rams are favored by 2.5 points at the open, and that went up to 3.5 points. I think the Rams defense is doing great, and Matthew Stafford, that old man, is playing like an MVP caliber quarterback. However, the Seattle Seahawks are on fire. And who did they just acquire in their backfield, right? Like, they are a team on the rise, and Sam Darnold is looking incredible. This should be a huge, huge game to decide who will be the king of the NFC West. J-Mar, what are your thoughts?
I'm definitely going to be near TV watching this game for sure. It's got game of the week vibes to it. They're both 7-2. They're both in the most contentious, arguably the most contentious division in football. And also, San Francisco's playing Arizona, which I don't think is necessarily gimme for San Francisco either. These teams are all battling it out, duking it out. So it should be an interesting game. My gut is telling me that I should go with the Rams. It's such a close call. Both of these teams are offensive barn burners, and Seattle's got an amazing defense. The Rams' defense is pretty good too. Man, it's going to be a war. I'm going to love watching this game. I can't wait to see this game. And trust me, when I pick the Rams, it's just like a coin toss. I mean, they might win by a last-minute field goal, that kind of vibe. So I'm going to take the Rams. I love McVay, man. McVay's just such a great coach, and he just has a way of winning these types of games. He had an embarrassing loss against San Francisco earlier this year and made some pretty bad decisions. So I think he's learned from that, mid-season and hitting a new stride, and he himself is getting better as a coach, if that can be believable. And look what they did to the 49ers last week. I mean, that was at San Francisco too. They stomped them. I mean, they made them look silly. So I got the Rams, but once again, it's just one of those situations. If Seattle wins this game, I won't be surprised.
100%. I think that the momentum is with the Seahawks. Devontae Adams may not play, and so losing a weapon like that could be the difference here, and that the defenses are going to also help decide this game. I think the Seahawks will win, even though they're not favorited. So J-Mar and I are split on that, but I'm with him too. It's going to be a game to watch. Like I wonder if Jackson Smith and Jigba will continue his streak and just dominate the game of football. And if Sam Darnold can hold up, right? Like we've seen him fail during times of pressure like he did in the playoffs. So can he get over this hump? Can he win against an excellent team in their own division? That's why they play the game, J-Mar.
That's why they play the game.
The third game color commentary we'll preview is the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos are 8-2. Can you believe it? I can't. They're squeezing out wins, battling it with their defenses, breaking J.K. Dobbins' foot, and they keep going. So, incredible that he went back in and still played. It looks like it'll be R.J. Harvey's time to shine. The analytics have the Chiefs winning. The fans are more split, with 58% picking the Chiefs and 42% picking the Broncos. The Kansas City Chiefs have pushed themselves into must-win territory. They have the bye. They have a lot of time to plan this one. I think that the Kansas City Chiefs do win because Bo Nix is having a sophomore slump. He's just not showing up for his team when they need them, despite their record. J-Mar, what do you think?
Oh, man. Should be interesting. Another close game. KC's favored by 3.5. Look, Denver's not playing that well right now, even though they're getting the victories, which is great. I mean, that's what you have to do. And they're 8-2. Kansas City's 5-4. I think Kansas City needs this game, right? They need this game a little bit more. And telling Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid that they need to win. I mean, that's like, yeah, dude, that's a pretty. I like those odds. Those guys are still pros. They're still here. They're still doing it. They're coming off a bye week. Maybe Denver's a little tired. It's a home game for Denver, which Denver plays really well at home, as we all know. But weather was a factor against them again in that Raider game. So, man, I got Kansas City winning this game. I just feel like Kansas City needs it more than Denver at this point, and Denver is probably just showing a little bit of mid-season-ish fatigue. It just feels like that game against the Raiders just was not impressive. So I think a team like Kansas City can really smack it to them, as opposed to my awful lowly Raiders.
Look at this division, J-Mar. We have Denver at 8-2, the Chargers 7-3, Kansas City of all teams at 5-4, and Vegas at 2-7. I mean, like, do you see hope? Do you see in the next 2-3 years for them to climb out? I know we didn't want to this isn't about the Raiders, but I'm just with the conference right there, and with those three teams in it, like it wasn't always this way. It could always turn around, but like, wow, these divisions are stacked with three teams over 500.
I mean, and look, the Raiders are I mean, look, the Chargers have a quarterback that's just starting to bud. Mahomes ain't going anywhere. He wants to win more Super Bowls. and Denver, they're hungry too. So Raiders are in a lot of trouble, dude. I don't know where the light at the end of the tunnel happens for them. And certainly the product that they've been putting out there, our quarterback's terrible, questionable coaching. I mean, this hurts, man. I hope, like, I mean, I've seen so many great superstars go in and out of the revolving door over at Allegiant Stadium. I mean, we at one point had Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, all these great players. And look, now we have Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers and Max Crosby. I just don't want to see these guys leave because they're really the foundation of our team. They're really the heartbeat of our team. And if I see Max Crosby in another uniform in the next 2 years, I'm gonna be pissed. It's like I was mad when we let Khalil Mack go, so we'll see what happens, man. So
we'll see what happens. If the spread gets any bigger, I'd be more interested in betting the Broncos. If it gets closer to 4 or 5 points, maybe because I just don't know. The defense is good. I think Patrick Surtain is still hurt. And so if that's the case, this could be a blowout. It's Chiefs game to lose. It'll be the Broncos' first home loss. Our penultimate game that we're going to preview is between the Detroit Lions and the Philadelphia Eagles. 6-3, 7-2. The Eagles squeezed out a win, winning only by a field goal. And this team is heavily criticized. Their offense is not showing up. Hurts is taking his sweet time. And the Detroit Lions had a really difficult time, in some games, and in others, it's 3 touchdowns, Jahmyr Gibbs, wheels up. So, which team is going to show up is a good question. The analytics are split and the fans are also split. I honestly don't know who's going to win this game. It's in Philly and it's at home. I think that gives Philly just enough of an edge to win this game. J-Mar, what do you think?
Well, Philly's got that 2.5 Vegas advantage. I mean, they are a heavily criticized team. They're the Super Bowl champs. There's a big magnifying glass on them. People love roasting that team. But they do one thing well. They win, right? They're 7-2. They're top of their division. Detroit battling it out, right, with that crowded NFC North. I mean, they're tied with your Bears right now, at 6-3. At top of that division. Green Bay at 5-3-1, and once again we talked about Minnesota, how that's like almost a must win for them at 4-5. I have been really impressed with Detroit. That offense just looks like it's on fire, right? Like they're almost unstoppable and they're hitting some sort of stride. Even though Philly is favored in this game, I expect this game to be a high scoring game, but I feel like Detroit has just a little bit more to prove. I mean, then watch, Philly's probably going to end up winning this game because of that same exact reason. But because Philly loves shutting up the critics. That's something they love doing. They love shutting up the critics. So all these games that we previewed, I feel are just they're coin tosses. I'm going to pick Detroit just because they've been hot and maybe they could keep that heat going up against Philly. But I would not be surprised once again if Philly wins this game. I mean, if that O-line's still the same. That those are the bullies of the block. Those guys are incredible, and that might be enough. But I'm definitely going to watch that game too. It's going to be a hopefully. I'm hoping for a high scoring affair because I've got Jahmyr Gibbs running for Detroit, and I will be starting Jalen Hurts this week. So I'm just hoping for a high octane offensive juggernaut of a game, and best of luck to whoever wins that game.
As we learned, J-Mar may or may not change his mind come Sunday morning. However, I think I will also be starting Jalen Hurts. This most likely will be a high scoring game. And look at the points for and the points against. It's a really great look at how these teams are rolling. 283 points for Detroit against 200 points against. Philly, 218 points for with 192 points against. This is exactly why they're criticized. They aren't running up the score. They aren't showing their stuff. They're not, getting the big plays. They're just doing enough to win, and maybe they're conserving their energy, right? Like, look at their division: 3-5, 2-7, 2-8. they've got the division, man. So, I think they're just putting the brakes on. And I think that's puts Jalen Hurts in a bit of a danger for us. Like, he just may not score that many points. I think he's a floor play now. I'm not panicking. I'm just saying, like, looking at the points they're not that interested in putting up points. Detroit loves it. Like, I feel like they feed off it.
I'm excited, man. Like, even though, people have been critical of the injuries this year and it kind of makes the game almost unwatchable for some, I think that there's so much competition in the league this year and there's no let up. Usually you can look at your schedule and you could say, oh, great, we've got, this team, this week. I don't think you can do that anymore because it feels like every week the competition's just so stiff. And you're like, oh man, holy snap, we've got Baltimore this week. Oh, we got Tampa Bay the next week. Then after that, we got, Houston, with that defense. Then we got, just Detroit, Philly. There's just so many teams that are just steamrolling. We just so many good teams. So I'm excited for this matchup. I am looking forward to all the games that we previewed, and hopefully they do what they're intended to do, which is entertain football fans like you and I.
100%, J-Mar. I think you said something that's really key. There really aren't easy matchups, and if you need proof, just look at the Bills-Dolphins game. It just flipped everything on its head. Color commentaries. Final game we're going to preview is between the Cowboys and the Raiders. Right now, the Cowboys are heavily favored in the analytics, and the fans are even more into the Cowboys. And so I think that says more about the Raiders than the Cowboys, to be honest. And right now, it's just a 3.5 point spread. That seems kind of low. The point total is 50. Wow. So here we are in Vegas, 5:15 Pacific time. J-Mar, is there any hope for the Raiders to upset the Cowboys like the Dolphins upset the Bills?
I don't think so, man. Maybe. The Raiders end up winning the games that you don't want them to, but we are in a rut. So maybe we're prime for a breakout against the Cowboys. Maybe it'll happen, right? We don't know. I just feel like the Cowboys, look, they are coming off a bye week. They got Quinnen Williams. The Raiders are such a strange team. They're the kind of team that just ends up showing up in weird times when you don't want them to. And like we just described, it's the NFL. Weird things can happen. And, the two disappointing losses, right? The disappointing loss that they should have beaten Jacksonville, but didn't happen. And they've had several opportunities against Denver, and that was an ugly loss. I feel like it's an interesting moment in the season for the Raiders. Either their players are just giving up on this, and they're like, screw this. This is an awful season. Let's pack it up. Or they're going to show heart, and they're going to try and win this game. But Dallas is coming off of a bye. I don't think Dallas is trying to fool themselves into thinking that they can make the playoffs. But realistically, if they win out, they can make the playoffs. And Dak Prescott was playing lights out football before the bye week. They might have a little bit of extra motivation too, because, they had one of their star players, unfortunately passed away, Marshawn Neal, and it's awful, what happened to him. Sometimes teams use that as a motivator, and they use that the death of one of their comrades as like a rally cry. So who knows? This might be the beginning of their rally cry. You'd be foolish to bet against the Cowboys in this game, but once again, like, the Raiders are that team. They're that team that wins the games that you don't want them to win.
Funny enough, I think the spread, I'm surprised it's not higher, and I think the total, it could be higher too. So like it's one of those games. I think you're right. That Cowboys team has been through a lot, and then they lost one of their comrades. So I wouldn't want to be the Raiders in this. It's going to be brutal to watch, and I won't be watching it. I'll be watching something else, I think, during this time. And I don't have any players in this. No, I don't. So I hope for better things from Vegas, and maybe they need to lose out in order for there to be a good reset. I don't know. Like, there's just no motivation if you're the Raiders to win. I think you're just trying to make business decisions. Don't get hurt.
Right on.
And that's it. On episode 13, we told you our favorite picks and who we're going to start in our lineups. Asterisks, that might change Sunday morning. Hopefully, you all make the right decisions for your teams and you get into the playoffs. Look ahead. It's time to stash players and look at defensive matchups. J-Mar, any more advice for fantasy owners out there for week 11?
Oof, man, just be smart on the waiver wire, and hopefully none of you guys get injured, and make some smart choices. Believe in your studs.
Believe in your studs. Like for me, Breece Hall. Why am I sitting him? That's crazy. Anyway, thanks for listening. Share the Color Commentary podcast. Tell your friends to subscribe, like, and comment. We love all those who listen. And please come back next week so we can tell you how we did in week 11.